Commander James Walker stood at the massive window of the Galactic Council space station, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The stars looked different from here, so far from Earth. 5 years had passed since the war ended, but the memories still haunted him every night. A soft chime broke the silence. "Commander Walker, the Council will see you now," announced the AI assistant. He turned from the window, his military boots clicking against the polished floor. The Council chamber doors towered before him, covered in writings from 100 alien civilizations. As they slid open, Walker felt the weight of history on his shoulders. The chamber was circular, with seats rising up like an ancient Greek theater. Representatives from 50 spacefaring races filled the seats, their bodies ranging from nearly human to completely alien. The lighting dimmed, and a spotlight focused on the center platform where Walker now stood. "Commander James Walker of Earth," the head counselor's voice boomed through the chamber. The alien's blue skin seemed to glow in the dim light. "You stand before this council to answer for your actions during the Earth Meridian War. Do you understand why you are here?" Walker's voice remained steady. "I understand that you think I committed war crimes. I'm here to explain why you're wrong." A murmur rippled through the assembly. The memories flooded back to him, as clear as yesterday. It had started on a Tuesday. Walker remembered because he had been complaining about the cafeteria's terrible tacos when the first reports came in. Massive ships had appeared near Mars, their design unlike anything humans had ever seen. The Meridian Empire had arrived, and they hadn't come to talk. The first attack destroyed the Mars colony in seconds. 3,000 people gone in a flash of light. Earth's military responded, sending their best ships and weapons. The Meridians swatted them aside like flies. In his office at Earth Defense Command, Walker watched the footage over and over. The Meridian ships moved like living things, their hulls shifting and changing shape. Human weapons barely scratched them. "Sir," his assistant had rushed in, face pale. "They've taken Jupiter Station. The moon bases are next." Walker remembered standing up, his coffee cup falling to the floor. "Get me everything we have on their attack patterns. And I mean everything." The next week was hell. Earth's conventional forces were crushed. The moon bases fell. The Meridians seemed unstoppable, their technology centuries ahead of humanity's best efforts. But Walker noticed something. The Meridians followed strict patterns. They attacked in formation, used standard tactics, and never deviated from their battle plans. They fought like they were following a rulebook. "They're fighting a gentleman's war," Walker had told the Joint Chiefs. "But we can't afford to be gentlemen. Not if we want to survive." The room had gone quiet. Admiral Thompson, her face lined with worry, spoke first. "What are you suggesting, Commander?" Walker pulled up the battle footage. "Look at their ships. Perfect formation. Perfect timing. They expect us to fight the same way." He paused the video. "But that's not how humans wage war. We adapt. We fight dirty when we have to. And right now, we have to." "You're talking about breaking every rule of modern warfare," General Martinez had said. Walker nodded. "The rules were made for fighting other humans. These aren't humans, and their rules will get us all killed." The Joint Chiefs shared worried looks. Finally, Admiral Thompson stood up. "Do what you have to do, Commander. Save Earth." That meeting changed everything. Walker put his plans into motion. They would fight the Meridians in ways they'd never expect, ways that would later horrify the Galactic Council. Standing in the council chamber now, Walker lifted his chin. "Before you judge our actions," he said, "you need to understand our situation. We weren't fighting for glory or territory. We were fighting for survival." The head counselor leaned forward. "Then explain, Commander. Help us understand why Earth chose to break every rule of civilized warfare." Walker took a deep breath. The truth would shock them, but they needed to hear it. Humanity's survival had come at a terrible price, but it was a price he would gladly pay again. "Let me tell you about the real beginning of the war," he said. and why we had no choice but to fight the way we did. Walker stood before the council, his voice steady as he continued his story. The memories of those dark days played in his mind like an old movie. Our first real victory, he told the council, came when we stopped trying to fight like them and started fighting like humans. 3 months after the initial attack, Walker sat in an underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. Maps and holographic displays covered every surface, showing the positions of Meridian ships. "They're moving in perfect formation again," said Captain Rogers, pointing at the largest cluster of enemy ships. "Same pattern as always." Walker smiled for the first time in weeks. "Exactly. And that's how we'll beat them." He turned to the team of engineers beside him. "Is Project Mirror ready?" The lead engineer, Dr. Adams, nodded. "We copied their communication signals. Their ships won't know our drones aren't part of their fleet until it's too late." The plan was simple but clever. They had built small unmanned ships that broadcast the same signals as Meridian vessels. These drones would slip into the enemy's perfect formations, then detonate their special payloads. "Launch in 30 minutes, Walker ordered, "and get me those weather reports." The Meridians had never fought in Earth's atmosphere before. They didn't understand how storms could affect their ships. They didn't expect humans to use their own planet's weather as a weapon. That day, they launched Project Mirror during the biggest hurricane of the season. The Meridian ships, following their standard protocol, maintained their perfect formation even as the winds battered them. They never noticed the small human drones joining their fleet. The explosion weren't big, but they didn't need to be. The electromagnetic pulses from the drones shut down the Meridian ship systems. As their formation broke apart, the hurricane did the rest. 23 enemy ships crashed into the Atlantic Ocean. "First blood," Walker had whispered, watching the radar screens, but he knew this was just the beginning. "You used your planet's weather as a weapon," a council member interrupted, their multiple eyes blinking in surprise. Walker nodded. "We used everything we had." The Meridians thought space combat was like a chess game. But Earth isn't a chessboard. It's a living world, and we knew how to use that. The next phase came 2 weeks later. The Meridians had adapted to avoid storms, just as Walker expected. So he changed tactics again. "Their ships are partially biological," he explained to his team. "They respond to threats like living things. So let's give them a disease." The biological warfare team had created a virus that targeted the living components of Meridian ships. It wouldn't harm the alien crews, but their vessels would become sluggish and unresponsive. They released the virus through the clouds, letting Earth's jet streams carry it around the planet. The Meridians' mighty warships began to move like they were drunk, their perfect formations falling apart. "This is barbaric," one of Walker's officers had said, "using diseases as weapons. We're fighting for survival," Walker had replied. "We can feel bad about it after we win." In the council chamber, many representatives looked disturbed. The head counselor raised a hand. "You deliberately infected their ships with the virus. This goes against all principles of civilized warfare." Walker's eyes hardened. "With all respect, Counselor, there's nothing civilized about warfare. The Meridians had technology centuries ahead of ours. They could have wiped us out in days if we fought properly." He paused, looking around the chamber. "But we didn't just survive. We started winning. And that's what really scared them. Not just that we fought dirty, but that we fought smart. We adapted. We evolved our tactics faster than they could counter them. And this was only the beginning." Walker continued. "Wait until you hear what we did next. Because sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy is to make them defeat themselves." The council chamber fell silent, waiting for him to continue. The worst was yet to come, and everyone knew it. The council chamber remained silent as Walker moved to the center of the platform. A holographic display activated, showing images of a massive Meridian command ship. "This," Walker said, pointing to the ship, "was the turning point of the war. The day we captured the Meridian flagship Star Sovereign. and the day we learned why they hated our tactics so much. 8 months into the war, Earth's forces had pushed back enough to catch their breath. The virus had weakened the Meridian ships, but they were adapting. Walker knew they needed something bigger. In his command center, he studied the capture footage from a small Meridian scout ship. The alien captain's words had been translated. These humans, they fight without honor. They hide. They poison. They trick. This is not war. This is chaos. Walker replayed those words again and again. They're not just angry, he told his staff. They're confused. They don't understand why we won't fight properly. The plan came to him that night. If the Meridians couldn't understand chaos, he would give them more than they could handle. We're going to take their command ship, he announced the next morning. His officers stared at him like he was crazy. That's impossible, Colonel Peters said. It's the size of a small city. Their shields are too strong. Walker smiled. We're not going to attack it. We're going to let them capture us. The trap was set carefully. They leaked information about a secret human weapon being transported to Australia. As expected, the Star Sovereign itself came to intercept it. What the Meridians found was an old cargo ship, seemingly damaged and easy to capture. They followed their standard protocol, bringing the ship into their massive landing bay. Inside that cargo ship were 200 of Earth's best soldiers, all in powered armor designed to look like shipping containers. And with them was humanity's actual secret weapon, a quantum computer virus that could bypass Meridian security. Now, Walker ordered from his command post. The cargo came alive. While the soldiers engaged the surprised Meridian crew, the virus infected the ship's systems. Within an hour, the mighty Star Sovereign belonged to Earth. You used deception to capture their flagship, a council member asked, clearly disturbed. This breaks every rule of engagement. Walker turned to face the alien. Yes, and in that ship, we found something interesting. Show them, he told the holographic system. The display changed, showing Meridian battle plans. They had a formula for everything, specific responses to specific attacks, but nothing for dealing with unpredictable enemies. They literally couldn't process our tactics. More images appeared, Meridian military documents, training manuals, battle philosophies. Their entire society was built on order and rules. War, to them, was like a dance. Both sides were supposed to follow certain steps. But we didn't know the steps, and we didn't care to learn them. The head counselor leaned forward. And this justified your actions. What we found next justified everything, Walker replied. His face darkened. In their databases, we found their true plans for Earth. They weren't just going to defeat us. They were going to remake us. The holographic display showed new images, massive reconstruction plans for Earth, genetic modification protocols, behavioral conditioning systems. They were going to fix us, Walker said, his voice hard. Make us civilized like them. They would have erased everything that made us human. Our creativity, our adaptability, our chaos, all gone. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Even some of the more critical members looked troubled by this revelation. After finding this, Walker continued, we knew we couldn't just fight to survive. We had to win completely. And what we did next? He paused, looking around the chamber. That's what really earned me this trial. The head counselor gestured for him to continue, but everyone could see the growing uncertainty in their eyes. The line between right and wrong was becoming less clear with each revelation. In the council chamber, the holographic display shifted to show a massive space battle. Hundreds of ships, both human and Meridian, locked in combat among the stars. After we discovered their plans, Walker continued, his voice grave. We launched Operation Thunderclap. What happened next is why most of you think I'm a monster. The captured Star Sovereign had given Earth more than just information. It had given them the key to Meridian technology. Within weeks, human engineers had learned to control the living ships, to speak to them, to make them obey new masters. Walker stood in the new command center built inside the captured flagship. "Begin Operation Thunderclap," he ordered. The plan was cruel but effective. They would use the captured Meridian ships to attack their own supply lines. But first, they had to make sure the ships would obey. "The bioships are ready, sir," reported Dr. Adams. "We've modified their neural pathways. They'll follow our commands now." Walker watched through the view screen as the first converted ships launched. They looked like normal Meridian vessels, but inside, their living components had been changed, altered to serve human masters. Some called it slavery. Walker called it survival. The Meridian supply ships never suspected their own kind would attack them. The converted ships struck without warning, destroying fuel depots, ammunition stores, and food supplies. The Meridian war machine began to starve. "Sir," Captain Rogers called out one day, "they're sending us a message. They want to talk." But Walker had read their plans for Earth. He knew talking meant surrender, and surrender meant the end of human independence. "Keep attacking," he ordered. The next phase was even worse. They began using the captured bioships as weapons, sending them on suicide runs into Meridian fleets. The living ships screamed in agony as they died, their psychic death cries driving nearby Meridian ships into chaos. "You turned their own ships against them," a council member shouted, rising from their seat. "Do you know how many lives you destroyed?" Walker faced them calmly. "Those ships were alive, yes, and we used them as weapons. But the Meridians had planned to do worse to every human on Earth. They would have rewritten our genes, reprogrammed our minds, made us their perfect, obedient subjects." A holographic display showed more battles. Human ships, now equipped with stolen Meridian technology, struck from nowhere. The converted bioships spread panic through enemy fleets. Earth's forces pushed forward, system by system. The Meridians didn't understand what was happening. Walker explained. Their entire military doctrine was based on fighting enemies who followed the same rules they did. But we weren't just breaking their rules. We were using their rules against them. He pressed a button, and the display showed Meridian ships fleeing from Earth forces. They started to fear us. Their perfect formations broke apart at the first sign of human ships. Their crews panicked when they couldn't predict our attacks. "And the bioships?" the head counselor asked quietly. "The ones you converted." Walker's face showed no emotion. "We did to their ships what they planned to do to us. We changed them, reprogrammed them, made them serve our needs. The only difference is, we did it to win a war. They wanted to do it to our entire species, forever." The council chamber was silent now. Many members looked uncomfortable, caught between their horror at Walker's actions and their understanding of why he took them. "There's more," Walker said. "Because what really terrified the Meridians wasn't that we could beat them. It was that we could think of things they never imagined. And what we did next." He paused, looking around the chamber. "That's what finally broke their empire." The holographic display flickered, ready to show the next chapter of Earth's brutal path to victory. The council chamber's holographic display changed again, showing a grand Meridian city ship. Its elegant spires and crystalline towers floated in space, a symbol of their civilization's power and beauty. "This was their capital ship, the pride of Meridian," Walker said. "The day it fell was the day their empire broke. And I'm the one who broke it." The war had been raging for 18 months. Earth forces had pushed the Meridians back, system by system, using their own technology against them. Then came the message everyone had been waiting for. "They're requesting peace talks," Admiral Thompson announced in the war room. "Their diplomats want to meet on neutral ground." Walker studied the message. After all this time, after all the deaths, the Meridians wanted to talk, but something felt wrong. "Show me their fleet movements," he ordered. The tactical display revealed what he feared. While the Meridians spoke of peace, their ships were regrouping. They were planning one final massive attack. "They think we'll follow the rules of diplomatic engagement," Walker told his staff. They expect us to stop fighting during peace talks. That's what their code of warfare demands. Colonel Peters looked troubled. If we attack during peace negotiations, no one in the galaxy will ever trust humans again. Walker's face hardened. If we don't attack now, there won't be any humans left to trust. That night, while Meridian diplomats prepared for peace talks, Earth launched its boldest attack yet. They targeted the pride of Meridian itself, using everything they had learned about Meridian psychology and technology. First came the converted bioships, screaming their death songs. As the Meridian defenders broke formation in panic, Earth's main fleet struck. But the real attack was already inside the Pride. "Release the nanites," Walker commanded. Months earlier, they had captured a Meridian supply ship carrying construction nanomachines. Earth's scientists had reprogrammed them, turning the tiny robots from builders into destroyers. The nanites spread through the Pride's systems, multiplying and consuming. The great city ship began to eat itself from the inside out. Its crystalline towers crumbled. Its elegant spires collapsed. "Sir," Captain Rogers reported, "they're broadcasting on all frequencies. They're begging us to stop." Walker watched the Pride of Meridian die. "Keep attacking," he ordered. "Hit every major fleet base and colony we can reach. Don't give them time to recover." In the council chamber, several members had turned away from the holographic images of the Pride's destruction. "You attacked during peace negotiations," the head counselor said, their voice heavy with disapproval. "You destroyed their capital ship while their diplomats waited to talk." Walker nodded. "Yes, because they weren't really seeking peace. They wanted us to lower our guard, to follow their rules one last time." He pressed a button, showing Meridian battle plans discovered after the attack. They had 10,000 ships ready to strike Earth if we had waited one more day. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some members shouted about war crimes and barbarism. Others sat in troubled silence. The Pride's destruction broke them. Walker continued over the noise. "Their entire fleet saw their greatest ship die. They watched us break every rule they had, use every weakness they never thought could be exploited. Their empire had stood for 10,000 years, and in less than 2 years, we had shattered it." He looked around the chamber, meeting alien eyes both hostile and understanding. The next day, they surrendered, not just to save themselves, but because they were afraid of what else we might think of, what other impossible, unthinkable strategies we might devise. The head counselor raised a hand for silence. "And after their surrender, what did humanity do then?" Walker's expression changed, becoming almost sad. "That's the part that really matters. Because how we treated them after we won. That's what this trial is really about." The chamber grew quiet again, waiting to hear the end of the story. The holographic display in the council chamber changed once more, showing scenes from the war's aftermath. Meridian ships grounded, their crews surrendering, and human forces moving into their territories. After their surrender, Walker said, his voice quieter now, "We had to decide what kind of victors we would be. That decision is why I'm standing here today." The war room was different now. The emergency lighting was gone, replaced by normal overheads. The frantic energy of battle had given way to the quiet tension of peace. "They've signed the surrender documents," Admiral Thompson announced. "All Meridian forces are standing down. The war is officially over." Walker stood at the window, watching Earth's ships patrol the skies. "No," he said. "Now comes the hard part." The first reports from captured Meridian worlds showed the Empire's true face. Billions of beings lived under their rule, all forced to follow their rigid codes and patterns. Many had been genetically modified to better fit Meridian standards. "They're asking what we want to do with the conquered territories," Colonel Peters said, reading from a tablet. "The other council races expect us to follow standard occupation protocols." Walker turned from the window. "And what do those protocols say?" "We're supposed to maintain their existing systems, keep their society stable, make minimal changes." Peters looked uncomfortable. "Basically, we're supposed to become them." Walker smiled grimly. No, we're going to do something much worse. We're going to give them freedom. The plan was simple but revolutionary. Every world in the former Meridian Empire would be given independence. Every species would be free to choose their own path. The rigid controls and genetic modifications would end. You can't do this. The Meridian High Commander had protested during the surrender negotiations. Our system maintains order. Without it, there will be chaos. Exactly, Walker had replied. That's how evolution works. That's how species grow stronger. Within months, the former empire was transforming. Some worlds embraced their freedom immediately. Others struggled with their new choices. The Meridians themselves watched in horror as their perfect order dissolved into what they saw as anarchy. You deliberately destabilized an entire civilization, a council member accused. Billions of beings thrown into chaos. Walker faced his accuser. We gave them choice, something the Meridians had taken from them generations ago. Yes, it was chaotic. Yes, it was messy. But it was real. The holographic display showed new images, former Meridian worlds beginning to develop their own cultures, their own ways of life. Some failed. Some thrived. All changed. You want to know my real crime? Walker asked the council. It wasn't what we did during the war. It was what we did after. We showed the galaxy that order isn't the same as peace. That control isn't the same as stability. He walked to the center of the chamber, his voice growing stronger. The Meridians tried to make the universe perfect by forcing everyone to follow their rules. We proved that true strength comes from adaptation, from chaos, from change. The head counselor leaned forward. And the cost? The suffering caused by this. Freedom. Less than the suffering of eternal slavery to someone else's idea of perfection, Walker replied. We didn't just win a war. We broke a system that had been crushing worlds for thousands of years. The council chamber was silent now. Many members were looking at their own hands, their own uniforms, perhaps seeing for the first time how their own love of rules and order might be another kind of chains. There's one more thing you need to know, Walker said. One last truth that will explain everything. Because what we found in the deepest Meridian archives. He paused, his eyes hard. That's what proves we were right. The chamber waited, knowing the final revelation was about to come. The council chamber's holographic display flickered one last time. The image it showed made several council members gasp. Ancient star maps, genetic databases, and records that went back thousands of years. What you're seeing, Walker said, is the real reason the Meridians attacked Earth. The real reason they wanted to change us so badly. In the months after the war, human scientists had dug deep into Meridian archives. In their oldest records, they found something extraordinary. Walker remembered the day they brought him the translation. He had been working in his office when Dr. Adams burst in, holding a datapad with shaking hands. Commander, you need to see this, she had said. It's about Earth, about humans. The ancient Meridian records told an incredible story. Long ago, the Meridians had visited Earth when humans were still primitive. They had found something that terrified them, a species that could adapt to anything, that learned from every failure, that grew stronger from chaos itself. They watched us for thousands of years, Walker told the council. They saw us survive ice ages, plagues, disasters. They saw us change and grow stronger each time. And they were afraid. He pressed a button, showing more ancient records. The Meridians built their empire on control, on making everything follow their perfect patterns. But humans, we thrived on chaos. We evolved through disorder. We were everything they feared. The records showed the Meridian leadership's debates over the millennia. Some wanted to destroy Earth immediately. Others wanted to wait and study humanity. But all agreed. Humans could never be allowed to reach the stars unchanged. So when we finally developed space travel, Walker continued, they didn't come to welcome us. They came to force us to change, to make us like them. Because if they didn't, they knew we would change them instead. The council chamber was completely silent now. The head counselor spoke softly. "You're saying they attacked Earth because they were afraid of human nature itself." Walker nodded. "They were right to be afraid. Look what happened when they attacked us. We took their weapons, their ships, their tactics, and made them our own. We learned, we adapted, we evolved. We did exactly what they feared we would do." He turned to face the entire council. "You called me here to answer for war crimes. But what you really want to know is, are humans safe? Are we too dangerous to be part of your galactic civilization?" Walker smiled, but there was sadness in it. "The answer is, we're only dangerous to those who try to cage us, to force us to be something we're not. The Meridians didn't lose because we were stronger. They lost because they couldn't understand that chaos and order need each other." The holographic display showed one final image: the current galaxy map, with former Meridian worlds now growing and changing in their own ways. "Look at what freedom has done," Walker said. "Yes, it's messy. Yes, it's unpredictable. But it's alive. These worlds are evolving, just like humans have always done. And that evolution will make the galaxy stronger, not weaker." He straightened his uniform. "So judge me if you must. Call me a war criminal. But remember, we fought not just for our survival, but for the right of every species to find their own path, even if that path leads through chaos." The head counselor stood, their voice formal. "Commander James Walker, this council will now deliberate on your actions." As the council members began their discussions, Walker remained standing tall. He had told the truth, all of it. Now it was up to them to decide. Was humanity's chaos something to fear, or was it exactly what the galaxy needed? The fate of Earth's relationship with the galactic community hung in the balance, but Walker knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened, humanity would adapt. It was what they did best.